Is being a casual gamer a fun thing to do? Yes, I think so. And I also believe World of Warcraft The War Within is doing a fairly decent job of it. If you're like me, you've been playing MMOs for decades. EverQuest, RuneScape, Final Fantasy XI, World of Warcraft, and the many MMOs that I never touched or faded away due to a lack of players. In my early years of playing MMOs, I followed a trend where I enjoyed exploring. I went out of my way to explore maps, read quest dialogues, or join groups for dungeons I'd never been to just to experience them. As time went on, however, I found myself wanting to be more competitive. World of Warcraft was my biggest offender. Imagine this, joining a guild in WoW and doing your very first Molten Core run. It was wild, crazy, and new. After a while though, I learned about damage meters. Suddenly, I found myself directly compared to others, and anyone with this add-on could see how I was performing. This led to me looking at what other players of the same class and spec were doing differently, and I worked to improve. There were even forums dedicated to theory crafting. The best gear, the best spec, the best rotation. All it took was a night of reading some forums, and with the key to success in my hands, I was topping the damage charts in my groups. I wasn't alone, however. It turns out I wasn't the only one with access to the internet. I know that's surprising, but many others were doing the same thing. Now that my damage was higher, others were doing what I did, and the difference between us was either luck or skill. Some players didn't want to put in all that effort and just played the game for what it was. This almost seemed offensive to me. I couldn't understand or fathom why these players would choose to actively play badly. It led me to join guilds dedicated to high-end play. The beginning of the end. These guilds were fantastic, being part of the top 100 guild in the world, clearing content before guides are out, researching our classes using consumables, and knowing every fight. Yet something wasn't quite right. I found myself logging in every day and being unable to do anything that I wanted to do. It became a second job. You had to do dungeons, collect mats for potions, farm gold, complete daily quests and Mythic Plus dungeons. Some of it was fine, but sometimes I just wanted to level an alt. However, in my guild, you had to do all of this or you were out. You were only accepted if you could maintain that style of play. And it burned me out. It burned many others out too. I ended up not playing any MMOs for several years because I was so tired of that atmosphere. The idea of perfection in a raid extended into guilds that claimed to be casual. Like an infectious disease, it was everywhere. All you had to do was log into WoW Classic to see it. I sometimes dabbled in Final Fantasy XIV every now and then, but it had some of the same issues. Weekly required token grind, so on. I don't have a job that allows me to work from home, so I can't dedicate the amount of time required to do all of that. I was recently playing EverQuest because of the idea that you didn't need to dedicate so much time to accomplish things. But I ran into the same issue again. Many players would get upset if you weren't playing in a specific way, had already unlocked certain abilities, or weren't leveling the right way. I struggled with the time required to grind AAs, and I just didn't want to log in every day. Then a friend playing retail WoW tried to convince me to give it another shot. WoW had been the worst offender for me, and I had no desire to go back. I kept putting it off until I stopped playing EverQuest and thought, why not? Let's try it. I was so surprised by what I found. The raiding schedule many guilds had. 4 nights of 4-hour raids? No. It was just 1 2-hour night. And some guilds even did 2 2-hour nights. 4 hours of total raiding. That sounded amazing. But I thought, there's gotta be a catch. Some strange thing I had to grind like artifact power. I needed to clear all world quests daily to stay relevant. I had to do 100 plus Mythic Plus dungeons a week to stay in the roster. None of that. On my first raid night, I logged off and sat there thinking, now what? It was the first raid I've ever been in that didn't go all the way to my bedtime. I had time to do other things, but I was so accustomed to needing to do something that I wasn't sure what to do next. I never thought I would be here making a video endorsing World of Warcraft, but here we are. The current state of WoW is extremely casual friendly. This expansion is the most alt-friendly I've ever seen. There's no artifact power system. There's no strange thing I have to log in and do every day. There's no random legendary drop forcing me to grind dungeons over and over. Leveling is easy and straightforward. While I'll probably never endorse the WoW story, it's just not my cup of tea and I don't find it interesting at all. The current campaign story, it has its moments. For example, Thrall and Anduin, secretly in love. You cannot convince me otherwise. That opening cinematic, I know what's going on there. And Xalatath and the Archer Girl, they're giving off some heavy vibes there in their cutscenes. Every time you level an alt to 80, you get an experience buff that stacks with other characters you've leveled to 80. This makes alt leveling so much faster and easier. It's so easy, in fact, that I find myself making new characters, running some time walking dungeons, and seeing if I even enjoy the class. But what about casual raiding? Raiding, like I said, is where it all started. That infectious obsession with perfection that takes over everyone's mind, making them believe they must follow an exact rotation or risk failing. I was actually worried about this. I've encountered some of that behavior with pugging Mythic Plus dungeons, especially when I forgot to use Bloodlust or didn't know a boss mechanic, but it hasn't been too bad. I'd compare it to my experience in Final Fantasy XIV with pugs there. Raiding with my guild, though, has been wonderful. There's this thing called flex raiding. It used to be that raids required a specific number of players, like 10 man or 20 man or 25 man or 40 man and so on. Now, with normal and heroic raids, you bring what you have, and the raid adjusts accordingly. As long as you have the required number of tanks and healers, it just works. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen. If someone is missing, it's no longer a big deal. Even if a tank or healer is missing, you can just swap specs and fill the role right then and there. You can even bring in one of your alts that you've leveled and geared up. The stress of maintaining a strict roster and trying to bench people, it's all gone. Now we just group up, meet at the designated time, and raid with whatever we have. Some players swap to required roles, some bring alts. I've never been a part of a guild that struggled to clear heroic, and usually just focused on mythic. I was worried that progressing through heroic in a guild would be a problem, but honestly, it really wasn't. It was fun. We didn't rely on overgeared characters to blow through things. We saw mechanics, we saw the phases, and we worked through them as a group, chatting away on Discord with people I enjoy being around. Not just because of their skill, but because of their personalities. With all of this free time on my hands, I found myself leveling professions and enjoying that as well. I even leveled professions on alts. I did all the quests in one of the new zones just to experience the story and explore. I kill old raids to farm transmogs and mounts. I can log in and do whatever I want, rather than doing what I have to do just to maintain my place on the roster. If you're looking for a casual raiding experience, look no further than World of Warcraft, The War Within. It has blown away my expectations. I look forward to logging in. I look forward to deciding what I want to do. If you're like me, you may struggle at first with the idea that you can play the game however you want. It's a hurdle I didn't expect, but just give it time. Find a guild through the in-game guild finder, join a casual group of people who are playing the game for fun, and you'll enjoy it.